man, it was kind of a fake it till you make it thing, because here I am, I'm only 23 at the time. And, man, I didn't know how to manage anybody or how to do anything. I'm like, you guys probably shouldn't be promoting me into this, but I'll take it. Yeah. We see a lot of bad information out there about peptides, by the way. And I would encourage everybody, do your research on these things, because there's a lot of fly-by-night companies. And they're operating unethically. They're giving people bad information. They're giving people incorrect information. They're setting expectations for these things that these things were never designed to do. We live in a kind of a day and time now where respect is just kind of expected from people. You just have to, it's expected to be freely given. It's not, man. You have to earn respect. Leadership is not I sit back here and crack a whip. Leadership is, hey, I go, put on the pack and go with you through this, and in fact, I got to go first, So once I learned that, which being young, it took me a little while, again, my processor's slow, but once I learned that aspect of it, then it came a little bit more naturally, and people kind of began to follow at that point. And then kind of the respect began to fall in line. If you look back and there's people following you, you're a leader. Yep. If you look back and people aren't following you, you can yell and scream all you want. It's not going to be effective.
Can't make yourself a leader.
No. Yeah. And so, but you earn their respect by diving in and doing it. You don't have to get it right all the time, man. I mean, I've screwed up more than anybody I know.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Blueprint. Today I've got Boomer Cornwell. He is president, owner, CEO, the man of Dynamis Health Group. He's going to tell us a little bit about some of the things that you've heard about, things that are good for you, things that aren't so good for you, and we'll find out what's real and what's not. Stay tuned. And also, if you guys could do me a favor, hit the subscribe button down there at the bottom. It's really going to help me get a lot more of these stories out. I'm here to help you and inspire you and get these stories out for these people and what they're doing. So hook me up. Boomer, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Glad to be here.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to go in for just a few seconds. I'm going to give me a 2-minute spiel on what Dynamis is, and then we're going to jump into like who you are and what you're doing.
Got it. Dynamis is, we try to be a little bit of everything to everybody. We've learned that probably is not the best way of approaching this. What we look at is kind of the whole concept of what happens to a person, male or female, once you reach that critical age of 35 to 40 years, 35, 40 years old, something like that. We've got two choices. Okay. We're going to, if you look at your body, you look at your health, you look at your life in 3 stages. You've got the first third of your life. That's whenever cell replication exceeds cell death. Okay. So we're growing. We're, in our teenage years, our hormones are are completely aligned. I mean, they're raging, but they're completely aligned, right? Yeah. They're working. We recover from injury. We notice that, and I would say enjoy it, although I don't think the kids today really experience much enjoyment in that frame of life. But the whole aspect of that is that happens up until we're about 30 or so. Okay. And then the middle third of the life of your life is kind of where everything equals out a little bit. Okay. And it's a little bit different for everybody. Give it, 10 years, 12 years, something like that. So maybe it's not quite a third. And then the last third, though, which typically happens around 35 or 40, for some people a little bit later, our cell death actually exceeds our cell replication. So we're actually preparing ourselves for the grave. One of the first things that starts to go is our endocrine system. And the endocrine system, which is directly tied to things like thyroid function, pituitary function, and hormone function, really begins to decline. And so we look at that. It's not just a one-shot approach of, hey, let's just go address your testosterone. There's a holistic approach to the patient to combat what is happening, and that's the aging process. And so you basically, like I tell people, you've got two choices, man. You can just get prepared for the grave and everything can suck and you can feel like crap the rest of your life, or you can address it. You can do something about it. Those are your only two choices. Do nothing or do something.
Well, you know what they say? Age is just like a train coming down the tracks, baby. You can't get away from it. It's happening.
Right.
Well, that's cool. So I'm gonna jump into the beginning. Then we're gonna get into some of that stuff. Is it okay if when we get down the line a little bit, I start asking you things like, what is TRT and what are pellets and what are these other things? Because so many people have so many different, questions about things like that.
And there's a lot of bad information about it too. So
yeah, 100%. Well, where were you born?
So I was born in Dallas, raised in Carrollton.
Okay.
Right as it butts up to Plano.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was family like as you were growing up?
Man, family was good. So mom, dad, brother, sister. I was the youngest of three. We lived in a little 1,100 square foot house in Carrollton. Very kind of middle class folks. It was actually pretty good. I mean, I've always said that there was a lot of, I didn't necessarily like being the youngest in a lot of ways, but the benefit was that I got to watch, there's a big gap. My brother's 7 years older than I am. My sister's 12 years older than I am.
Okay.
So, I got picked on a lot and made fun of, that kind of thing. But the benefit was I could kind of watch what they did and watch what my mom and dad got mad at and say, oh, I'm not going to do that, and kind of, didn't repeat those same mistakes. And so it was actually beneficial in a lot of ways, but it was good, man. We had a good upbringing. Went to school, played a lot of sports. Well, not every sport I wanted to play, but every sport my dad wanted me to play anyway.
So your dad picked sports for you to play in?
Kind of, yeah.
At the beginning or?
No, pretty much the whole way.
Okay.
No, it was fine. Ultimately, it was fine. He was probably right because I wanted to play everything.
Okay.
Maybe not soccer, but I wanted to play everything else.
Yeah.
And my brother played football. And I wanted to be like him. And so my dad wanted me to be like my brother as well. And so I got into it and played, but then I wanted to play baseball. And my dad's like, no, we can't do that. You need to focus on one thing. I wanted to play basketball because all of my friends were playing, baseball, basketball, soccer, the whole thing. I didn't really care about soccer, but he was like, no, just focus on one thing, do one thing and do it well. But then that culminated later into, well, if you want to run track, you could run track too, if you want to do that. So I was allowed to do football and track growing up, but it was actually really beneficial. I mean, it really helped me in a lot of ways. And I think mainly focusing just kind of on the one sport like he wanted me to do was probably the right thing to do. So,
what was your first love for the first sport?
The first love for the first sport?
Yeah. What was it? Football, baseball?
Oh, yeah, definitely football. 100%. Yeah. One of my earliest memories in life was watching a Dallas Cowboy game.
There you go.
Yeah. And in fact, it was actually, believe it or not, it was Thanksgiving, 1979. It was a Thanksgiving Day game against the Redskins. It was one of my very first memories in life. And I can still see the TV, in my memories right now. So yeah, that's always hit home.
That's crazy. We just found out that we're like a month and a half age difference.
Yeah. Right.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
Bicentennial babies.
Yeah. That's right, man.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Really cool. So what position did you play?
Well, started off playing offensive line, defensive line, kind of dual positions there for a little while. And then finally, when I began to get a little height and lose a little bit of the body fat, they moved me over to middle linebacker.
Okay.
And so that was a lot of fun. I played a couple of other positions I didn't really care for, but I mean, mainly a middle linebacker, all the way up through, middle school, high school. So, yeah.
That's a different mentality.
It's a different mentality. It's an aggressive mentality. You and I grew up in a time, we were, I don't know if you played or not, but we were coached much differently than people are coached today. Yeah, very much so. I mean, we grew up in the days. I mean, I remember my coach grabbing me by the face mask and dragging me all over the field. I mean, parents would lose their mind if they saw their kid, having that happen to their kid today. But it was, I mean, we were expected to, I mean, literally, I mean, there were like, rewards and awards and trophies for like, taking the quarterback out of the game kind of thing. I mean, it was just this real aggressive, go 100 miles an hour and kill the guy kind of mentality, so to speak. Right. So, but it was fun, man. I enjoyed it. It actually taught me a lot of who I am today, really. I
was a baseball player growing up and I wanted to play football really bad. When we were playing Sandlot, like I was really good at it, and so it got up to high school and I played all the way through organized sports up to high school and my parents would not sign the waiver for me to play football.
Really?
And I was like, why? And then I started going to high school and I noticed every game there was a guy that would pull up in a wheelchair and he had one of those little straws that he could drive himself up. That was one of their classmates who had broken their neck on the field playing football. And they had said, our kid will never.
Oh, man.
So from freshman year on, they were like, nope, you're done.
I think I was fortunate because the worst thing that ever happened, I was very fortunate to never really get injured. I mean, as hard as I played and as many years as I played, I guess God was looking out for me or something, man. But I had one of our teammates one time in Little League, he broke his arm. And then I had a couple of buddies that, their ACL got taken out kind of thing. But I think that was the worst that ever happened. I never saw anything like that, thank goodness. Or maybe I wouldn't have wanted to play as long as I did. But
it really is funny when you really start investing yourself into certain things, right? And they become your identity.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden something changes physically which is, we're going to get into in a little bit. Like you could be defined as XYZ and let's say you blow an ACL, or say you have a bad knee or something, you need some PRP or something like that, to get back to who you were. If you can't do the things that you were to define yourself as a golfer nowadays, in your second third or your third of your life, those things change you up to be somebody different.
They do, man. And I tell you, it's funny because my identity changed too a little bit. Well, a lot, I guess I should say, because I was 100% convinced growing up playing football that I was going to go to the NFL. I mean, I just knew I was, but my mentality changed. Of course, I became a teenager, started chasing girls. And so football slowly over time became a little less important. The girls were beginning, kind of taking a little bit more priority there for a while. And I began to realize, I'm probably not going to go to the NFL. I mean, I kept having these stats throw at me. It's less than 0.5%, and you probably ain't it, dude, kind of thing. I had, people telling me that, and not a lot, but I just kind of thought to myself, if I'm going to go to college, and truth be told, I didn't really want to go to college, but I did because my dad wanted me to. And I thought, man, if I'm going to go to college, I should probably go for the education piece. I'm probably not going to go to the NFL. So playing sports in college is probably going to be a waste of my time, And so, so it certainly changed for me, man. Yeah, for sure.
So you played football all the way through high school?
All the way through high school and then first year of college.
Okay. So were there any other things in high school that you were into, like band or art?
Not really. We typically made fun of the band guys. And no, it was mainly football, track. I would say, and girls, football, track, and girls, man.
Football, track, and girls. Yeah. What were you doing in track? Shot put.
Shot put, discus, and then it's funny. In 8th grade and 9th grade, they had what they called a fat man relay.
Okay.
And I wasn't fat, back then. I don't know, maybe compared to some people.
Yeah, check these abs.
But I was. But you know what it was? It was because I was tall and I played football, so I was a little bigger than the average runner. Yeah. But when they call it the fat man relay, but it really, the coach came up and chose me for both of those years because I was actually pretty fast because I had played football, right? So it wasn't so much that I was fat necessarily; it was the fact that I ran fast, and so. But that was it. Other than that, shot, disc, and I think that was it, man. That's all I did. Yeah.
How did that
I wanted to do the high jump, but I never did the high jump.
How did that feel when somebody said, "I want you to do the fat man relay," and you don't see yourself as fat? What's that feel like?
I thought it was funny. Honestly, I thought it was hysterical.
Yeah.
And again, it's terminology we could use 30 plus years ago. Can't use it anymore. Man, I ate it up. I thought it was pretty funny, and I actually liked doing it. Truth be told, because I was kind of fast. Not so much fat, but fast. And man, I really enjoyed it because I think each year, man, we won the relays every time we did it. Because so I really enjoyed it. I didn't take offense to it at all.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. And so as you're going through this transition of like understanding that your football thing is probably going to start to dwindle down, what's Pops like in this scenario? Is he like, "No, man, you still got this," or "Buckle up," or "Hit the gym," or "Let's go, fast boy"?
Yeah, not very happy.
Okay.
But I had seen the same thing happen with my brother. My brother played all the way up through high school and then also told him that he didn't want to play. And so my dad got upset with him. So I don't think it was as earth-shattering when I came and told him the same thing.
Yeah.
I think he maybe kind of halfway expected it, And but really, ultimately, the most important thing to him was that I got a good education, go to college, get an education, and then learn what you want to do with your life, which took me a little while to figure that out.
Yeah. When you go to games and you see the dads that are, not saying your dad was this way, just made me think of all the sporting events that I've played through. And then as I had kids and I got older and I started to watch the other dads that are out there, the dads that are just on the fence, yelling through the fence and just ripping their kids a new one the entire time.
Oh, yeah.
What kind did you have versus what kind are you?
It was so interestingly enough, it's so funny you asked that question because I was actually thinking about that yesterday, having no idea what we were going to talk about here today. So my Little League coach, his name was Rich Ressa. I don't even know if that guy's still around anymore. I hope he is, but he was the greatest coach I ever had. And he made it very clear that at the beginning of each year, he would when he would go to equipment check, and he would sit all the parents in a room, and then he would tell all the kids to go play or whatever over there, right? And he would have a very candid heart-to-heart with all the parents, and he would tell them, I want you to come to all the games. I want everybody to be there. I want you to support your kids. I want you to support your sons in this. When they walk onto the field, they belong to me. When they walk off the field, they belong to you, which means you're not going to stand at the fence and yell at me. You're not going to stand at the fence and yell at your son, okay? I'm the coach. When they walk off the field, you can have them back, but that's it. And so he really set the stage for all the parents to not behave like that. He really wouldn't tolerate it.
Yeah.
And he would have no qualms about going, okay. And this never happened because the parents behaved, but he made it very clear that if any parent did misbehave like that, kid was off the field. And I don't care what position he plays, he's off the field. He's not part of my team anymore. So we really didn't have much of that. But even then, my dad would have not been that way. He was more of kind of like the quiet, supporter. But if you did something wrong when you got home, he'd let you know about it, but he wasn't the guy that would yell at you on the field or anything, And, I think I'd probably be the same way. It's funny enough, man. I've got one son that I'm aware of, and he's 16 years old.
Shout out.
Right. Right. Yeah. And let's hope. And no, I'm funny. Anyway, but we weren't going to have kids. My wife and I, we've been married. We're coming up on 24 years. And originally we weren't going to have kids. And we were set in stone. We have nieces and nephews, and we're just going to be the cool aunt and uncle. We're not doing the whole kid thing, not going to do it, not interested, kind of thing. And then the doctor, my wife's doctor said, well, you probably wouldn't be able to have kids anyway. So, that's probably a good decision. So anyway, but my dad, he's passed away now, but back then we had been married a couple of years, and he sits me down one day and he says, are you really not going to have kids? And I said, no, I don't think we're not going to have kids, man. We're not going to do it. And he goes, well, why not? And he's asking me all these questions. And I said, well, here's the funny thing, Dad. I said, you know what? Are we going to change our mind one day? Maybe. Well, clearly we did. But I said, here's the funny thing. God's going to play a joke on me, and I know it, because what he's going to do, I said, I grew up playing football. You wanted me to play football. I was all into sports, all this kind of stuff. You wouldn't even let me play some of the sports I wanted to play. And that was all on my mind, right? I mean, I had, sports and girls. The only thing it occupied my brain 24 hours a day. And I said, but if I have a boy, and that's hopefully what I have if I ever change my mind, God's going to play a joke on me. And what he's going to do is he's going to give me the boy that is tall and muscular and athletic, and he is not going to care anything about sports, man. He's going to be all artistically inclined. Yeah. And I'm telling you, God's ear, heard it that day, because that is exactly what I have to this day.
Nice.
My son, he's almost as tall as me. He's, very muscular. Very fit, very athletic. If he would apply himself to a sport, he would be the best at it. I know he would be. He tried it. We had him try it. Early on, soccer, baseball. God, he hated baseball. He tried golf, or a couple of others. And he just he couldn't connect the dots on why the other team wouldn't let him have the ball. That's what made him mad. Not the actual sport. He got mad because the other kids on the soccer team weren't sharing the ball and stuff. And we're like, this, you're totally missing the point, kid.
Yeah.
But anyway, we finally kind of gave up because he made it pretty clear, just in his actions and the way that he behaved, that he was really going more down the music route. And so we said, you know what? I think I'm not going to groom him for something that, I wanted to do. I mean, if he wants to be in music, go be in music, man. So that's what he does now. So
isn't it funny how that happens? Like you see a path and you think, I don't really enjoy this. I'm going to take the complete opposite approach to what I'm doing. And it's not like I just turn it a little bit. Like you just go the opposite way. You know, I remember I played for a long time as well. And I remember being on this one trip, and one of the guys got drafted. One of my buddies literally got drafted on the deal, and we were all, had dreams and aspirations of the same scenario, but he actually got drafted on that trip. And I thought, dang, man, I'm not going to see my buddy anymore. He's not going to be here next weekend. He's going to leave to go, to the minors. And he showed up the next trip, and I was like, what are you doing? He's like, well, to be quite honest, he's like, I just decided not to go. And I said, why not? And he goes, from the day I was born, I have had to practice throwing, practice hitting, practice fielding every day with my dad as part of chores. And I've been chewed out about it. I've been yelled about it. He has driven it. Our relationship is terrible about it. And this is the first time in my life I can ever say F you to him.
Oh, wow.
And I said, pick something else. Dog, pick something else.
Yeah.
Like, this is a great moment for you. And he's like, not doing it. Because I'd rather come out with you guys and play. He came out and hit 3 bombs that day. And I was just like...
And you know what? And that's baseball, man. That's a different sport. I've always had a lot of respect for baseball players. I've always said, baseball is it's a team sport, but it's an individual effort, right? And you have to be insanely good at your position, whatever it is. I mean, even to make it into the NCAA, let alone the professional leagues, man. I mean, Yeah. So I could see where, you have to, if you play the outfield, you got to field how many balls every single day. I mean, there's never a day off, I mean, I don't know if you know much about the biography of Pete Rose, but he talks about that too, and how there are certain things like his dad wouldn't let him go to the movie theater because he was 100% dead set on the fact that the movie theater and the lights from the projector would ruin his eyes, and that his eyes, and he would not be able to see the ball coming at him, if he watched a movie. So he wasn't allowed to watch movies growing up. I mean, it's just crazy stuff like that, so.
Yeah. It is funny how all that stuff kind of feeds into creating the person and your mentality of who you end up being, but from that moment on, I just remember thinking when he told me I'm F my dad, I was just I will never be that human.
Yeah.
I will never be the human that I love sports. I'm probably one of the most competitive people you'll ever meet. I'm not saying I'm the most, but there's probably people at my level, but I'm just saying I want to win everything.
Yeah.
And tooth and nail. I'm a little brother and I've always wanted to be that way. And I'll play you 1,000 times until I do win. Right. I'm just that guy. Right. Yeah. And so, but I remember looking in that kid's eyes and I thought, whatever feeling I have right now for winning is not worth losing my child, or that feeling that I see that he has with his dad. And I was like, don't care. I want my kids to get the best out of competition and learn what it's like to lean on each other and be a part of a team and to get all the good attributes out of sports. But I don't care how far you go.
Right.
This one thing I will sign up for is if you sign up for it, you finish it. Right. Sign up for a season. I don't care if you don't like it on game 1. You got 9 more to go.
Yeah, because you've committed to a team at that point. Yeah, but you don't have to keep going after that. I'm 100% agreeing.
Finish that up and then move on. But I just remember at that point, I was like, I'll never, ever, ever be that human being right there.
Yeah.
So
I decided the same thing. My son, and I always wanted my son to win too, but I wanted him to win at whatever it is he wanted to do.
Yeah.
Right. And if it wasn't what I wanted him to do, I would have loved if he would have played football or baseball or basketball or whatever he wanted to play, but now he's into music, so I don't know exactly what winning looks like in music, but whatever it looks like, that's what I want him to do. And that's what I'm going to push him to do,
that's awesome.
Because that's, but it's also, I think it's generational though, because, I think our parents, I'm not exactly sure when your parents were born, but probably around the same time mine were. And, it's just a different mentality, they were a little bit more, hey, fulfill what I want. Yeah. And I think our generation is a little bit more, hey, I'm going to help you win, but I want you to win at whatever it is you want to do, because, and I don't have any resentment toward my dad at all, in fact, but I really would not, to your point, I wouldn't want that resentment from my son toward me either. Going, you made me do what I didn't want to do, kind of thing. So
I didn't get to live. I didn't get to breathe.
Yeah, or do what I want, or or I finally get to do what I want, but I'm 40 years old. I've missed 20 years of my life. I don't want that for him either.
Yeah, 100%. Well, that's cool. So you did that all the way through high school.
Yeah,
you into a year into college. What college did you go to?
Stephen F. Austin, out in Nacogdoches, Texas.
Nice,
or Nowhere, as they call it.
Yeah. What is that? The Lumberjacks.
Lumberjacks. Yeah. Great school.
That's where my oldest was going to go, and then a girl came calling. So kind of changed his mind on that scenario too.
Been there.
And so anyway, so you went there, you played there for a year and then decided to take it into what? You're like, man, I'm done with this. I need to.
So it's funny. I use the word play very loosely. I was part of the team. We'll put it that way. I did not like the way that the coach dictated virtually every single thing that you did. I mean, they chose your classes, they chose your schedule, how many hours you can take. And so my first realization was, I don't know that I can do this beyond a year, because my dad made it clear that college is 4 years. Anything beyond that is on me. And I said, well, if I keep with this, man, college is going to definitely go beyond 4 years. This isn't going to work. That was my first thought. But the second realization that I came to very quickly from the coach, sat me down in his office and said, hey, I really do appreciate, you being here and being a part of the team. Want to let you know what you're up against. You're middle linebacker. That's great. He said, number one on this team is Jeremiah Trotter. And anybody who knows the NFL knows what a beast Jeremiah Trotter was. And so, NFL scouts showing up. And so he says, hey, we'll put you in. You may not even suit up for every game. I do expect you to be here at every practice. You may or may not travel with us. But look, if we're in a game time and you're suited up, if we're up by 50 or down by 50, you'll see some playing time. But other than that, no go. And so I thought, well, I guess at the time, I think about it retroactively, I was glad that he was at least honest with me about that. But that was also kind of indication number two is, hey, maybe this is it. Let's do this one time, and then you're probably done after this. So yeah,
well, that's cool. And then so you had someone kind of put you in your place and made you rethink kind of what the purpose was or trajectory was.
Yeah, I mean, very much so. Very much so. And then, funny enough too, like I had no clue. I went to college because my dad wanted me to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I didn't know what I wanted to do in college. Yeah. Right. So I went and like I say, originally I wasn't even going to play football, but I missed it so much. I'm like, let me just walk on and do it. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad I did it, but I guess maybe in retrospect I shouldn't have. But what's done is done. Had no clue what I wanted to do. So my brother had gotten a degree in business. And so I didn't know the first thing about business at the time. Certainly didn't know what Stephen F. Austin had to offer in terms of a business degree. But I thought, well, he did that. Maybe I'll just do that too. So I just went and applied, to be a business major, basically. Absolutely the most boring, mundane decision I could have possibly made. Mm-hmm. And I'd never fallen asleep in a class before that, ever. In the history of my scholastic career, I'd never fallen asleep in a class. And it was the introductory to business course. And I could not make it through it. I just could not make it through it without falling asleep. It was so incredibly boring. And I remember I walked back to my dorm one day and I sat down and I told my roommate at the time, I said, hey, man, I got to find something else. I said, I can't do 4 years of this. There's no possible way I'm going to make it through 4 years. And the classes are only going to get more difficult and more boring. I can't do this. And so he says, man, and he was in shorts and t-shirt and everything. Here I am in like pants and stuff. And I remember asking him, I go, did you go to class like that? He goes, oh yeah. And I go, what class were you in? And he goes, oh, physiology. I'm like, what's your major again? He goes, biology. He goes, man, you got to switch over to biology. And I'm like, thinking to myself, I'm like, yeah, I should probably do. And then I started doing some more research on it. And then it kind of dawns on me, I've always kind of naturally gravitated toward the health sciences and biologies of the world. I've always been really good. It was one of the few subjects I did well in school. Mm-hmm. Every other subject I didn't. And so I thought, man, what am I doing in this business class? So I went and I switched it. I tapped out and said, I'm not doing that, to hell with it. And I moved over to biology, and that was the best decision that I could have made. So
you check with the folks on that, or you just went and did it?
No, just did it, man. Just did it. And I let them know, my first report card came back that first semester. It was not good.
Yeah.
At all, in fact.
Yeah.
I think if, just this side of showing up to class, other than that, and I probably got my name right on a few of the tests, and that was about it, man. Everything else didn't look too good. And
so this is after you switched.
Well, it took me, it took me a little bit into that first semester to make that switch. And so I didn't make the official switch until toward the end of it. So a lot of my grades were kind of already set in stone. Mm-hmm. But so I officially started taking my biology classes really toward that second semester.
Okay.
And that's when everything drastically improved. I wasn't falling asleep anymore. I actually enjoyed what I was doing. Mm-hmm. And so that luckily was what eventually kind of led to what my career path would eventually be. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was fun, man.
That's cool. So you saw the grades start to lift and
yeah, which allowed me to stay in school, which was good. Because again, mom and dad both made it very clear, hey, if these don't turn around, there's not going to be another semester being paid for unless that's by you. Yeah. So I had to get on the ball and get serious.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. And so you rode that out for 4 years?
I did. Yep, did it. I graduated in 4 years. Came away with a biology degree, and went right into kind of spinal device and rehabilitation services for a company there in Plano called the Texas Back Institute. It was it was a small place at the time. They just had a couple locations. Now they're all over the place. I mean, they're huge now, but good group of guys. They took a chance on me. And so that was kind of my first forte into the kind of the medical world.
What were you doing there?
A little bit of everything, man. I mean, so they had at the time, it was kind of a unique idea, not so much anymore, but at the time it was this, it was this all-inclusive concept. They did surgeries. They had a small kind of device in medical device, I should say, kind of arena sales area. They did rehabilitation services. They did return to work, which is for workers' compensation, people injured on the job, specifically spinal injury. And then they had a whole gym with personal trainers. I was a personal trainer there for a little while, and then I got promoted to manage the place. So then I was over everything. I was over the personal training. I was over the workers' compensation, over the rehabilitation services, the medical device piece of this. And it's funny, man. It was kind of a fake it till you make it thing, because here I am. I'm only 23 at the time. Mm-hmm. And man, I didn't know how to manage anybody or how to do anything. I'm like, you guys probably shouldn't be promoting me into this, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
And, but it was good, man. It was a really good stepping stone into it. And, we did really well. Actually, I was there for a while. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed that. So.
What was the hardest part about managing people that you got in early on as a 23-year-old? Because, a lot of people don't respect you for that. They know who you are. They see what you've done. And they're like, who's this kid that's, trying to pop in here and tell me what to do? He can barely wipe his nose. There was
a little bit of that because a lot of the people were considerably older than I was. Not everybody, but I think the hardest part for me was truly not knowing what I was doing in terms of I'd never been a manager before.
Sure.
So truly not knowing really how to manage people, but how do I make it look like I do?
Yeah.
But then also too, like I always had this very kind of authoritative mindset because I was the youngest. And so I had a mom and a dad. My dad was very authoritative. My mom could be very authoritative. Had a brother and a sister. And so I had a house full of people telling me what to do at all times, So I grew up in this environment of do what people tell you to do, especially if they're older than you are, right? But
Military.
Here I am reversed, telling people older than me what to do. And so I could not connect the dots on why they weren't responding to that. Like, shouldn't you, I'm called the manager. Shouldn't you do what I'm telling you to do kind of thing?
Yeah.
And so that was the hardest thing for me to realize. And I've always said, like, my processor's slow. Like if something's going on, it's going to take me a little longer than everybody else to figure out what's really going on, And so that didn't help either, especially being young and naive and, fresh out of college. But it was a good experience, man. The owners of the company, they were all the surgeons, and the CEO and the executive leadership, they held on, man. They grabbed me by the hand and convinced me to hang on and stick with it. And so they did a good job and really helped me out. So it worked out.
What was the biggest breakthrough to actually starting to connect with people?
In terms of management?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Because there's some people that I never broke through with. There's some people that just had this idea of, hey, I've been here longer than him and he's younger than me and I'm just not going to do what he tells me. There was a lot of that. But I think really it was connecting with people and you have to gain their respect, right? Mm-hmm. It's funny. We live in a kind of a day and time now where respect is just kind of expected from people. You just have to, it's expected to be freely given. It's not, man. You have to earn respect. Mm-hmm. And so it took a little bit of time. But I finally did earn a lot of their respect. Maybe not everybody's, but eventually I did. But you do that by connecting with people, but you also do it by having very clear and concise expectations of people as well. Mm-hmm. I got a lot of it. So backing up a little bit, during the off times of college, like in the summers and breaks and things like that, I worked at a gym in downtown Dallas called Larry North Fitness. And Larry's still around. I saw Larry a few months ago. He's a good dude. He's retired now. But he gave me my first chance in the gym industry. Well, he owned it, but my manager was a guy named Phil Schuler. And Phil, to this day, is the greatest boss I've ever had in my life. And I'm just talking, I've had a lot of different positions and high profile positions, the whole thing. And Phil is still the greatest boss I've ever had and I really, really admired and respected, him, but admired his management style. He really had he was very outgoing, very funny. The dude could make you just, you would hurt from laughing. But he really expected an excellent level of service and extremely high performance out of you. Mm-mm. And he made that very clear. And if you did not give him that, if you did not exude excellence in everything that you did, and I'm just working at the gym, man, it's not like we're running Apple here. It's just a gym, right? But he expected and absolutely, there was discipline if you didn't deliver excellence, right? And he made that very clear. But I really respected that. And so that's what I was trying to bring into this as well. That, yeah. And so, but the one thing that to answer your question, this is a long way of doing it. I'm thinking back, okay, what is it that Phil did that caused everybody to respect him so much? And so that's what I need to do, Well, the best way that he did it, or the fastest way that he did it, was he had a natural ability to just connect with people. Mm-hmm. He could walk into a room and just connect with anybody. Didn't matter who it was. And so I thought, okay, that's what I need to do. I have to get rid of this authoritative mindset of, hey, I have this title, so you have to respect me. Well, that doesn't work. What I have to do is I have to connect with you, and I have to and advocate for you and help you. And, leadership is not I sit back here and crack a whip. Leadership is, hey, I go, put on the pack and go with you through this, you know, and in fact, I got to go first, you know? So once I learned that, which being young, it took me a little while. Again, my processor's slow, but once I learned that aspect of it, then it came a little bit more naturally, and people kind of began to follow at that point. And then kind of the respect began to fall in line.
Yeah. I mean, most leaders in general, once they start to understand that, look, we're all in this team together, and we're only going to succeed or fail based upon like how well we can get this ship to move in the right direction.
That's right.
Right. And if you're in there and you're just trying to think that this is another engine or another, something that I can tune up or push it when I want to, or take off hit a brake or whatever, like, it's not a tool. These people aren't tools.
Right.
And when they get treated like tools, next thing you know, they don't want to connect with you because they just see that you've already given them that capacity.
Right.
There's no room for growth. They can't get better at what they're doing. You're not connecting with them and teaching them and giving them like scope on where they can go. Like, so all of those things that you're talking about are true leadership skills, you know? And so also saying like, what are you doing today that I can help you with?
Right.
You know, each individual day, because people get overloaded, and man, if somebody thinks, oh man, this guy's going to step down from his spot and help me take care of mine, like now you're on the level together. Right. And so it's never crack the whip scenario.
Well, right. Or in the cases where it is, it doesn't work. Right. I mean, I've never been afraid to jump in and get my hands dirty and do it. I may not know how to do everything. I mean, even now in running Dynamis, man, there's stuff, honestly, I know we're on a podcast here. Don't tell my team. There's a lot of stuff they do that I don't know how to do, you know, and now I'll dive in and learn it and do it. No problem, you know, but that's that. And I've always been willing to do that. But I think that's where that respect is earned. And that's where the leadership, leadership's not hard, man. I mean, it's, people make it hard, but I don't think it's hard. I mean, people have all kinds of different definitions of what a leader is. A leader is very simple. I mean, if you look back and there's people following you, you're a leader. Yep. You know, if you look back and people aren't following you, you can yell and scream all you want. It's not going to be effective.
Can't make yourself a leader.
No. Yeah. And so, you know, you earn their respect by diving in and doing it. You don't have to get it right all the time, man. I mean, I've screwed up more than anybody I know, but the fact of the matter is, if you jump in and you do it, and let's learn this together. Let's screw up together. Let's totally blow stuff up together if we have to, you know, didn't mean to. And then we'll come back and we fix it, but we're all in this together, you know, then yeah, absolutely, man. That's how you build a team, you know, and a team that really wants to work for you. Yeah. You know,
and a team that wants to be around for a long time as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's
right. The worst thing is going out and building a team up, and year over year, your turnover rate is through the roof. And all you're doing is spending time finding the right person,
right? Training
the right person for your business, getting to the spot where they're comfortable. Then they leave and you start all over again. I mean, all you're doing is treading water.
Well, you are. And I wouldn't say wasting time, but I would, it's very close to it, because, you know, as business owners and leaders, we need to be growing the business. You know, my job is to grow the business, not necessarily to do the day-to-day stuff. I will do that if I have to, but to grow the business, man, I can't be, you know, constantly worried about, hey, this person's leaving, so I got to go on a hiring spree, and how do I go find the next person, and how do I find the right fit? And it's expensive too, man. Turnover is expensive. And you don't realize it, you know, as an employee necessarily, but as a business owner, when you start looking at the numbers, you're like, man, that was expensive to lose that guy and have to hire that other guy, you know, or gal or whoever it was. I mean, it's a long, arduous, frustrating process. You're taking a chance. I mean, you know, people can interview well all day long. That doesn't mean they're going to work out well for you, you know? So you're sitting there kind of on pins and needles for 90 days going, is this guy going to work? You know? And so, I would much rather build a culture where people just want to be here and they want to be part of what we're doing, you know, versus, hey, I got to go on a hiring journey every 90 to 120 days, man. No, thank you.
What do you do for people that are newly into your group? Do you say, hey, you're on a contract? Do you say, I'm hiring you after 2 weeks? Do you like, what's the process to get onto your team?
I am a big fan of what I call a dating period. Okay. So it's a 90-day dating period. So I will bring somebody on. You know, there's ways of doing it to where, hey, I could be a little bit more sure about this person. I tend to, I don't interview I don't believe in a lot of interviews, man. I don't believe in the whole corporate thing of, hey, we're going to interview this guy 4 or 5 times, then we're going to put him in front of a panel. I ain't got time for that, man. I've got work that needs to be done. And if I need you and I feel good about you after the first couple of conversations, we're going to give it a shot. Okay. Now we're not going to exactly go get married. We're going to date for a little bit, and that's going to be 90 days. So what we do is if we have an immediate need, a full-time immediate need, then we'll do that. Okay. We'll bring that person into that capacity under a 90-day contract, kind of a no harm, no foul time period where, hey, if this doesn't work out for you or us, we're just going to be real honest and transparent with each other. And you can go on about your business and your life, whatever. If not, then my preference would be to bring somebody on, give them 1 or 2 or maybe 3 tasks and just see how they do it for 90 days and say, okay, now we're going to measure your level of success. What does 30 days look like? What does 60 days look like? What does 90 days look like? Have you been able to accomplish what I've asked you to accomplish? Conversely, is this place working out for you? You know, am I doing what I told you I would do? Am I representing myself well? Is everybody else representing themselves well? Are you going to be able to fit in this environment? The truth is we actually know within the first 30 days, even less than that, really, if that person's going to work out. It doesn't typically take me. I've always, and I tell them this too. It may be a little bit manipulative, but I say, look, we're going to try this for 90 days, but I got to tell you, if I got to get to 90 days, you're probably not the guy, right? Because I should know a lot sooner than 90 days that this is going to work out. You know? Yeah, that's how we do it.
Well, that's cool. So you got your first job. You're doing the Back Institute. You're working you become manager now. Like, what is the next step after that? Did that run its path for a while? Were you there 5-10 years? What's going on?
Was there for a little while, and then what was it? 8 years, something like that. And I guess it was. Geez, I'm thinking about that. And then I actually through a buddy of mine, I learned or he actually told me of an opening with his company. It was a genetic testing company called Myriad Genetics, and they are the company that are responsible for a lot of the hereditary cancer testing that's available on the market today. So back then, this is back in, what is this, 06 or 07, I guess. They were looking to launch kind of a new sales team that was really specializing in like women's health, primary care kind of thing. And so I'd gone through the interview process with his help, obviously. He introduced me to all the right kind of decision makers. And then I became the sales manager for Myriad in their women's health primary care division, launching their products in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. And so that was really my first kind of real, if you will, medical sales job. I mean, I did a lot of that at Texas Back Institute, but Texas Back, we did a lot of different things, man, a lot of different things. And so this was really kind of the first official, medical sales job, which I really enjoyed, by the way. I really enjoyed it. So did that. That's when I got to do kind of a little bit of traveling with sales, which actually, and it's funny because my dad was a traveling salesman for 42 years or 43 years or however long it was. And he seemed to enjoy it. He complained about it, but he seemed to enjoy it. Yeah. And I learned pretty quickly why. I actually really enjoyed it too. I love the sales environment. I love, negotiating deals and presenting information and closing deals. I love traveling to go do it. I mean, I really enjoy, and I like the space because I got my degree in biology. Biology has always kind of come a little bit easy for me. So I'm thinking, man, I mean, it's a space I like. I really like sales. It's a little bit natural for me. I kind of like the challenge. I like the team aspect. I like being accountable to a team and a manager and leadership. And so I really enjoyed it. It was good.
The funny thing is that if you think about the so far where you're at, you've gone the football sports route, and you've gone the biology route, and then as soon as you get out of biology in school, then you go back to be a trainer, basically, and then all of a sudden you become a manager, and then you go back into the medical field to start doing sales. It's like you've got your foot in two different worlds, but and at the time it seems these are not necessarily the same path, but when we get further down your line, you can start to see how those two start to become one right here at the tail end.
That's true. I mean, I hadn't really thought of it like that, but it's true because I've always been, I really enjoy kind of the physical aspect. I mean, I enjoyed playing football. I enjoyed being a personal trainer, I enjoy being in the gym and working out, I mean, I work out at 5 a.m. every morning, at F45 up in Prosper.
Overachiever.
But I really do. I truly enjoy it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And, it's not the easiest thing in the world getting up that early, but I really do enjoy doing that. I mean, even if I had nothing to do, I'd still get up and do it. But then at the same time, I've also had to realize too, and it's funny you bring that up because I had to realize fairly early on that, hey, one day I'm going to be, I wasn't married at the time when I was thinking this, but I thought I'm going to be married one day, maybe have kids, maybe not. This is a lot of fun, man, playing sports and being in the gym and working out and doing this training and everything is really a lot of fun, but it's not going to pay the bills like it needs to pay the bills one day. I probably don't need to go get a big boy job and start doing big boy things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's funny because it's true. Like I've really enjoyed the medical sales experience. I enjoy the business ownership now, really enjoy what we do, but I still got to scratch that itch of, I got to do something, active and athletic and challenging and physical. And so, yeah, it's funny you say that. I hadn't really thought about it like that before, but
when you go down the line, this is where I'm bringing this up because when I was, after I graduated high school, a coach told me I needed to put some muscle on.
Okay.
Gave me and my buddy this container full of something that had like a printed label around the outside of it.
Okay.
Right. From his home computer. Right.
Yeah.
And it was called Power Optimizing System around the outside.
What is Power Optimizing System? What does that mean?
Well, let's just say I went from bench pressing 180 to 240 in like
2 weeks,
a month.
Okay.
Like real quick, and I started swelling up. I got a lot of size on me really, really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Through the football side of things and your interest in biology, did you have any help, physically as you're coming up through the ranks?
It's funny. So back when I guess it'd be my first and last only year of playing college ball. We had a team doctor, okay, that certainly offered a lot of help. I didn't take it.
Yeah.
I wanted to, but I was too scared. Do you remember the movie, The Program? Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Remember the character Latimer?
Yep.
Yeah. That's who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
That's who I wanted to be, but I was too scared to do what he did.
Yeah.
So I stayed away from it. And I was like, no, I probably shouldn't do that. As it turns out, I'm glad I didn't. But, so nothing like that. No, I didn't have anything like that, but, it's something that and not because I didn't respect it or wanted, maybe I didn't want to, but, I knew it was out there. I knew that kind of stuff was always available. The truth is I was always just too scared to do it. Just really too scared. But at the same time, I really hadn't. I mean, not to toot my own horn here, but I mean, I kind of felt like I didn't really need it. Like I had a fairly natural athletic ability, younger, not now that I'm 49 so much, but all the way up until I was probably 30. I mean, it was just kind of natural. Like I didn't really feel like I needed a lot of help. Really didn't. But I know some guys that did.
Yeah. I mean, there's two different body types, right? There's ones that can put muscle on really easily and fast, and there's ones that can shred down really quickly.
Right. I'm the first one.
I'm the first one as well. I'm the first one. Yeah. I can't shred down for anything. I could change my whole life to do anything like that. But but it's funny, you go lift weights for 3 days and people are like, hey man, how long you been working out? And you're like, 3 days.
3 days. But your bench went from 180 to 280.
Yeah. But I start to see a little bit of the same vein going through that. Performance and sports, right? As we start to get through this. So I'm going to bring that back up as we get a little further down the line, right? So you went through sales and medical, and then how long did that last? How long were you there for that?
Man, so the whole career, I guess I would say it officially started right out of college, so 99, all the way up to kind of my last hoorah in all the medical sales area was 2019 when I officially gave it up. Now, at the time, I was overlapping because I had started the business. Myself and my partner, Clay, had started the business. We started in 2017.
Okay.
But it's funny because I'd met Clay through a mutual friend. But he and I didn't really compete, but we'd been in the very similar sales space for a long time. But how we never met each other was beyond me because I thought I knew everybody in this world that did medical sales. But anyway, we just kind of hit it off and opened the business, our management and consulting business in 2017.
Both from the same area?
Yeah. Okay. He's actually from Rowlett.
Okay.
And I haven't really ventured out much. In fact, college was the furthest I'd ever ventured out. So I grew up in Carrollton, went to college, came back, lived in Plano, then Frisco. We're in McKinney now. So I've stayed right there.
So this location is the furthest you've been in your career?
This is the boonies, man. This is a drive. Yeah. We don't come out this way very much, but not for a while anyway. But, we both kind of held on, Clay and I held on to our respective sales jobs until we realized that this business was going to work. And so I remember standing in my office one day and he and I just kind of started challenging each other, going, okay, let's just do this, man. Let's just jump, let's just go, and let's let everything else go and just focus on this full time. And so we did, not exactly the same time. I think, he kind of gave up his, and then a couple of months later I gave up mine. And then, man, it's just been entrepreneurship full time ever since then.
What was this business?
What was the business?
What type of business?
So similar. It was medical consulting, so healthcare consulting and management.
Okay.
We had discovered a need. It was funny. I had seen it, this need, previous to me ever meeting him. I think he saw the same thing. You know, the environment for doctors was changing, still is, but it was changing drastically right around 2015, 2016. And what we saw back then, we saw these larger hospital systems like your Baylors of the world and things like that. They were gobbling up these doctors' offices. And you had these individual doctors' practices, or maybe 2 or 3 little doctors, but they weren't necessarily affiliated with the hospital system. They'd just been running the practice for 20 or 25 years. And these big hospital systems were like vacuuming these guys up left and right. Well, the truth is most of these guys didn't want to sell out to the big hospital systems, because what would happen is the hospitals would come and they would negotiate rates and everything. But these doctors thought that they had to have insurance coverage or they wouldn't be able to stay in business. That's not correct, and it's never been correct. I think finally now a lot of that mindset's finally changing. But even as recently as 10 years ago, doctors fully believed they had to take insurance in order to make any money.
Yeah.
It's never been true, but maybe a long time ago, but not anymore. And to get that mind shift, it was virtually impossible. Okay, very, very few doctors would listen to us when we would say, well, why don't you give up the insurance and go all cash? They would sit there and, I can't do that. But the truth of the matter is that these larger systems were negotiating hospital rates or I should say insurance rates, because they had a lot of size, they had a lot of bargaining power, and they had lobbyists. Doctors don't. And so these guys were losing a lot of their insurance contracts, or their insurance payment on these contracts were just going down and down and down 20 or 30% every single year. And so the only thing they knew to do was go add more patients. So these guys are, single provider practices, 2 or 3 provider practices back then, thinking they had to see 40 or 45 patients a day just to keep the lights on. And so we would go in and I kind of noticed that. So in the sales world, I remember going in and again, mainly laboratory. And these doctors would ask things like, well, hey, what is it that this is going to do for my business? How is your laboratory going to help me stay in business? And at first I couldn't connect the dots on why they were asking me that. And then it finally dawned on me that a lot of these guys were really struggling. And that there's a need, it wasn't for me. It wasn't that I think I had a kind of a bigger perspective than some of these doctors did. And some of them did well, but I would think, okay, there's a need here. Okay. These guys are having a hard time, and if they're asking me for help, then they need help. I mean, all I am is a rep bringing a lab to them, and they're asking me for help on what they can do about their business. So, that's what led to the discussion. And when I had met Clay, he had told me the same thing. And that's what led us to this. Hey, why don't we open up this management and consulting business and see if we can go help these guys? And the neat part about how it worked is we didn't need a lot of contracts, and we only needed 3 or 4 contracts, to, in fact, even just from a manpower perspective, I didn't even know that we could take on any more than that if we wanted to.
Right.
So, but really 3 or 4 contracts paid the bills fairly well, and so we had an opportunity to expand and do a couple of things. And, man, it worked out, and we thought this is going to work out a lot better than medical sales ever did. So when we had that conversation about, hey, do we think that this is sustainable? Do we think we can do this? And do we think we can support our families on this and this alone and leave the sales aspect to the side? Then that's what we did, man. We just took the leap of faith and it worked out.
When you say 3 or 4 contracts, you mean 3 or 4 doctors?
Yeah. Or offices, maybe. Offices. So yeah, you had, they were mainly single provider practices, but you had some that had multiple, providers in there. But they were typically small, and that's what we wanted. We wanted kind of those small, individual guys and gals that tried to run their own deal. And they'd been in business for a while, had a good patient base, but had no interest in joining the hospital system, because what would happen is these hospital systems come in and they don't pay these doctors anything close to what their practice is worth. What they do is they just take a look at 1 year total top line revenue, and they just write them a check for equal of what. So if the doctor's running a $3 million practice, then he just writes them a check for $3 million. Okay. Now there's some there's some legal aspects of that. That's the safest and most legal way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, when you just look at sheer numbers, they're underpaying for the practice if they do it that way. But the doctors would take it because, they're enticed by a $3 million check. Yeah. But then they would go on staff at $150,000 a year salary, and they were miserable. Yeah. They were absolutely miserable because they now became a hospitalist, basically, and that's not what they got into medicine to do.
Right.
And they didn't want to do it. And then it doesn't take long to burn through $3 million, over the next 5 or 6 years. Yeah. That's not retirement money when you're 50 years old.
Mm-hmm. So you guys ran that business for how long?
Ran it for about a little over 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Straight through COVID?
Straight through. In fact, COVID was, COVID in a lot of ways was a blessing to us. Mm-hmm. I mean, not too many people can say that, but I can. We had a doctor who ran a good practice, a very heavy volume practice, a lot of patients, man. Patients would come all over the place, to see him. And so we were having lunch with him one day pre-COVID, and we had no idea COVID was coming up. And, we're sitting there taking him out to lunch and, asking him, hey, what do you want to do? I mean, what is it you want to, because he was in this little space and he's kind of busting at the seams, but we could kind of tell too that he was getting a little bored. And so he said, what's the next step, man? What do you want to do? And he says, well, and he was mainly in the HRT wellness weight loss space. And he did a few other things, but mainly that. And he said, he goes, I want to open up a whole kind of chain or franchise of HRT and wellness clinics. And we said, well, that's great, but we wouldn't know where to put it. Do you know where you want it to go? Oh, I don't give it a lot of thought. Maybe Dallas. Well, the problem with that is you have too many people that come from Dallas to see you. Mm-hmm. So what you would be doing is just cannibalizing your Dallas patients. We could build you a place down there, but it's not going to make a whole lot more money than you're making right now because you're just going to take everybody that was already coming to see you in Dallas and they're just going to go to your Dallas place. Mm-hmm. Okay. And that's going to not necessarily help you there because it wouldn't be any new business for you per se, maybe a little bit, but then it's going to affect you in the space that you have up north. And so probably not a good idea to do that. So we thought, well, why don't we take a look at doing something online and we'll do a telemedicine concept. Telemedicine at the time, I mean, it was actually not as big as it is now. There's a lot more telemedicine than there is now, probably because of COVID. But at the time, there wasn't a whole lot. And so we started writing, Clay and I started writing this business model for what a telemedicine practice might look like. Mm-hmm. Again, having no idea that COVID was around the corner. This was when it COVID hit, 19. So this is probably March 2020. Yeah. So this must have been, okay, so you're right. So this must have been about the fall of 2019 that we're starting to write this business model. And we were going to take our time. We were going to take a good, 18 months to 2 years to really, put some money in this and think about the marketing and do this right and really, really devise a good business plan. Mm-hmm. But then COVID hit. And overnight, of course, if you remember, we were all told to stay home and don't move and don't go outside and all this. Well, in the doctor's offices, that means patients are not coming into the practice. Mm-hmm. And that's not a good thing. So overnight in the clinics that we were managing, we had to go to kind of a telemedicine concept, right? We had to sit there and go, okay, great. Doc, you're going to be at home. The MA is going to call the patient at their appointed time and do the intake over the phone, then transfer the call to you. And you're just going to do their visit at home on your computer, Mm-hmm. And it worked. And the funny thing is we were noticing previous to all that about a 20% cancellation rate every single day in the practices, which is about right, by the way. I mean, that's about par for any doctor's office. But whenever COVID hit, it went down to zero. The cancellation rate went down to zero because people are on the phone. There's no reason for them not to have their appointment, right? Yeah. So we actually, these clinics noticed an increase in revenue during COVID. And that's when Clay and I looked at each other and said, we need to launch this telemedicine concept like right now. Mm-hmm. So we launched it on September 1st of 2020. And it grew exponentially from there. We had paid for a study through a company called GuidePoint. And GuidePoint, they did a pretty good job. They didn't survey a lot of people as much as we wanted, but they did a decent job. But what it came back and told us was that it was 72% of everybody under the age of 40 prefers a virtual service versus an in-person service when it comes to their healthcare. Now, there's some things that you're never going to, like, you can't do virtual dentistry, right? I mean, you can't do virtual surgery. So some things are always going to have to be in person. But for certain services like primary care services, HRT and wellness services, things like that, that can be online, man. That can be a telemedicine concept. And so I found those numbers to be staggering. Again, my processor is slow. I didn't realize the virtual world we were living in at the time. And so he and I were talking one day, Clay and I said, man, everybody under the age of 40, well, most of them have kids, which means these kids are going to grow up in an environment where they're going to want virtual services too. Yeah. So that's not going to change. We're going to see this grow. We're not going to see it shrink. We're going to see it grow. So let's just move with this. COVID ended up being our unexpected test pilot for this concept. And it worked, man. Yeah. We launched it and it worked.
Just a rush to the top on that deal, right?
I mean, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, there were a few others doing what we did. Yeah. We had a little bit at the time, a little bit of a unique business model, and it worked. We came out and we had profitability in the first 90 days. Yeah. And it just snowballed from there, man. And there was a point in time we couldn't hire fast enough.
How did you get out in front of people? Like, how were people able to find you?
So we had, it was the marketing, 100% the marketing, which, I didn't know a lot about at the time. But there was, I'm not a very techie guy at all, in fact. But we had brought on a guy, that was really good at going out and kind of doing some digital marketing for us. And he was just a real kind of this gritty, go out, make it happen kind of guy. And he did a good job. He got a pretty good online presence for us through all the major platforms, Again, I was familiar with the platforms. I was not familiar with how to use those platforms from a marketing standpoint. And so he did that. And then our concept worked too, because going back to this doctor that wanted us to, open up this telemedicine concept, honestly, some of his patients just wanted to use the telemedicine and go, oh, great. I don't want to drive to your office anymore. So let me just come online. So some of those patients moved over to us. He actually didn't have anything to do with it. It was a different medical director, but the patients were aware that we were opening up this telemedicine concept. And so they moved over, and then they liked it so much that they were referring all their friends, So the referrals really got us started. But then our marketing guy took it into the stratosphere after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys rode that for how long?
Man, about 4 years. Okay. Yeah, about 4 years. And then the business shut down for a little bit. We had to kind of revamp everything a little bit. He went on. Clay really. It's funny, backing up a little bit. We own the company, but we also were very active in the company. And so, in fact, he and I, we both had really strong sales backgrounds and sales leadership backgrounds. And so for a while there, we were kind of butting heads on, well, who's going to be the sales leader here, kind of thing. And when really and truly what we needed to do was focus on being owners and not necessarily focus on working in the company, but we just really enjoyed it. And so finally, I just kind of relinquished it to him and said, you go be the sales and marketing guy. I'm going to be the boring, mundane guy behind that does like payroll and finances and compliance and all the good stuff that nobody cares about, right? So that's kind of how we split responsibilities aside from ownership too. So he had his team of people that he was hiring. I had my team of people that I was hiring. But in doing that, he learned a lot about the sales and marketing aspect of things. And he was teaching me a lot about it. A lot of stuff I didn't know. So he has, I don't know if he has a love of it. I don't, but he has a buddy that has a marketing company now. And so he went on to work with him, and he's doing good, man. He's doing good out there. But I thought, man, I'm gonna dive in. We're gonna revamp this thing. I'm gonna rename it. We're gonna jump back on board and get this thing going again. And so now I'm kind of wearing all the hats. I've got the sales and marketing hat, and I've got the finance hat, and I've got the compliance hat, and a little bit of the HR hat. And so probably too many hats, man. But that'll change whenever the time is right. But I enjoy it. I really do. It's a lot of fun.
So coming back online, you guys got back online at a year ago, 6 months ago?
We're coming up on a year. Okay. Yep. Coming up on, in fact, at the end of this month, it'll be a year. Yep. February 26th.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah.
Deal.
Thank you, man.
Well, that's cool. So let's talk about your business now and what they kind of focus on. There's so many questions about what people are hearing out there in social media or on the news or whatever. So let's talk a few things. First off, TRT.
Mhm.
I hear a lot of pros and cons about TRT. You know, I'm on TRT currently.
Yeah.
And when my doctor, I talked to my regular physician, and they're like, I don't want you on that, you know. And then I'll talk to my TRT doctor, and they're like, yeah, man, let's just, you know, gas you up real quick, you know what I mean? And so, and I've even had to throttle back that part of those guys, because I mean, yeah, you want to get the most you can get out of there, but there's a lot of complications that come with gassing up, right? If you let people overgas you, right?
Yeah.
So too much TRT is going to cause like thickening of blood. You got to start taking estrogen blockers, and no one knows what that does yet. And it causes hair loss. And then it's like, then, you know, stuff happens.
Mine came before that, by the way. Yeah.
Well, I've been on it for a couple of years, and it's not too terrible.
Man, I'd take a piece of that. Yeah.
But, you know, at the end of the day too, like there's a lot of things that start to spin out of control. Like you have to go donate blood because your blood gets too thick. Right. And so, and then I just heard the other day is like, you can't be on this for forever.
Oh,
or can you?
Did you read that or somebody tell you that?
Somebody told me this. And so that's what I'm asking is like, you can't be on it for forever if it's a lot, or if you're misprescribed, or like, what is it? I just want to kind of put that to bed.
Yeah, sure.
What do you think?
Well, you're right. So first of all, we'll start with the fact that you're right. There's a lot of really bad information out there.
Yeah.
The vast majority, excuse me, of our bad information came from what was called the Women's Health Initiative, which goes back to the 90s. And it was funded by a pharmaceutical company that I won't name, but it was specifically designed to paint the whole idea of HRT, specifically HRT therapy in women, in a negative light, right? What they were doing is they were completely manipulating the study, and in doing so, they actually killed a lot of the women that were a part of the study. And so, but the whole point of the conclusion was to perpetuate this idea that testosterone replacement causes cancer.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of doctors, unfortunately, just bought into that and said, "Oh, yeah, testosterone causes cancer."
Mm-hmm.
But even me, and I remember reading the conclusion of this study. It was some years later. It wasn't in the 90s. I think it was in the early 2000s when I was reading this study, and I just couldn't connect the dots on that in my head. And I wasn't clearly even close to running a business at that point, but what didn't make sense to me is how can testosterone cause cancer? Because when men and women, especially men, between the ages of 18 and 25, I mean, we're naturally pumping out levels of testosterone, you know, and that if we were going to get cancer, if testosterone causes cancer, shouldn't every 19-year-old have cancer? Because especially every 19-year-old male. And then I remember a few years ago, I was talking to a urologist, and a lot of urologists are good folks. And in fact, a lot of them do believe in doing TRT therapy. Some of them still don't. And I was talking to this one guy in Dallas, and I forget how I even met this guy, but he was trying to convince me that testosterone causes cancer. And I asked him one time, he got upset when I asked that. I said, your waiting room, is it full of 18-year-olds or 80-year-olds? And he said, well, it's 80-year-olds. And I said, why? Well, they all have prostate cancer. Okay. Have you checked their testosterone level? Well, I mean, they're not pumping out like they did when they were 18. I said, exactly. So if testosterone causes cancer, then your waiting room should be full of 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds, not 80-year-olds, right? Of course, he got upset about that. Now, there's again, that's me being a little bit manipulative, because there's a difference between your own natural source of testosterone, which is called endogenous, but then you've got the exogenous form, which is what we give ourselves whenever we don't create it like we should anymore. We have to give ourselves an exogenous form of it, right? Now, it's what form of it that you're taking, and then how does your body react to it, that will determine whether or not you have any kind of physical or I should say physiological problems with it. Okay. So like going back to this study, this Women's Health Initiative, what they were doing was they were giving women an exogenous form of testosterone. And then also like it was a very wide study, but some women got estrogen, some of them got progesterone, some of them got testosterone. And the vast majority of them that were given the estrogens ended up dying of cancer. Some of them that were given the testosterone died of cancer as well, because it was all being given from what was called equine units or horses. Okay. But it was derived from the urine of pregnant horses. So these women were being given hormone levels of literally 3,000 and 4,000 times higher than their body was meant to take or produce, for that matter, right? So yeah, when you load anybody up with that level of hormones, I don't care what it is, you're probably giving them cancer at that point. Okay, so that was a bad study, and in fact, the doctor that led it several years later came back and admitted to a bad study. He admitted that it had a prescribed outcome. So since then, slowly, albeit slowly, the thought process around HRT therapy has begun to kind of change and evolve into really what I consider to be good medicine today. And that's what we practice at Dynamis is good medicine. Okay. Because you're right. There's still some of those primary care guys that go, no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do it. Or they're going to try to convince you that a low level is therapeutic. It's not. Okay. Versus the other guys are just going to load you up, take as much as you want kind of thing. You don't want to do that either. Okay. For a lot of different reasons. Not necessarily because it's going to cause cancer, but because there's literally no need to. Yeah. Okay. You're just saturating yourself with something that your body doesn't need or can't use. Yeah. And
you're causing other results to happen. You got to chase something to fix that and chase something to fix that and whatever. Right.
Because you talked too about, okay, what about if you convert into estrogen? Well, that process is called aromatization. Well, some men do, some men don't. Okay. I don't really aromatize. So the good news is that I can take testosterone. I don't take like a whole lot, but I am on therapy clearly. And, in fact, the first doctor that I ever spoke to about this, I was 36. So what are we at? 13 years ago. And he had prescribed it for me because I think my testosterone level was like at a 600, even at 36, which is low for a 36-year-old. Very surprising, actually. And so I was a little taken aback by that. And to your point, he gives me the therapy and tells me how to, you're going to give yourself this shot. But he only gives me the injections and says, go home and self-administer at home. Okay, fine. So I do. And the first thing I noticed was like, I guess I was aromatizing back then because like my ankles were swelling up and that my face was getting puffy and red and I was getting kind of angry at stuff and I couldn't figure it out. And so I called him and I told him one day and he says, oh, you may be converting into estrogen. Don't worry about that. That'll go away. He didn't give me anything for it. He just said, don't worry about it. It'll go away. And I thought, well, I don't know if I like this very much, man. So I said, how long do I have to be on this? He goes, well, forever. And I said, forever? Like, as in forever? And he goes, yeah. He goes, you're now married to two things. You're going to be married to your wife and you're going to be married to your HRT therapy. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. And I thought, man, I don't know if I can do this forever, bud. I mean, I don't want to feel like this. I'm going to have swollen ankles forever. I'm going to have puffy red face forever and be mad at everything forever. I don't think that's going to work, So I went to somebody else who ended up getting me kind of dialed in a little bit better. Yeah. Made me feel a lot better. Right. But it's getting back to this whole idea of good and bad medicine, right? Yeah. One of the things that we do whenever I reinvented this company, in fact, I think it's the primary thing that we do, is we really, really want to educate people. We want to educate them on why you need more than what your primary care guy is telling you. Sure. Okay. But you don't need what your buddies at the gym are telling you. And by the way, don't get anything from your buddies at the gym. Right. That's one of the worst things, not the worst, but it's one of the scariest things that we hear, when we ask them, well, tell me about your current therapy regimen. Well, it's my buddy at the gym. We get it from his gym bag. I'm like, oh my gosh, stop getting it from your buddy at the gym. Don't get anything out of a gym bag. Okay. For the love of God, don't do that, So, anyway, it's therapy is somewhere in the middle for people. It is forever, because like I said at the beginning of this, you've got two choices, right? You can go into that last third of your life and just prepare yourself for the grave and feel like crap while you do it. Or, we can't ever beat the clock. I've always said, the clock's going to beat us, but you can feel really good during that time. You can, every piece of science that's out there, that's legitimate science, shows that we can tolerate the same levels of hormones at 60, 70, 80 years old that we did when we were 18 years old, right? So if at 18 or 19 years old, if us guys are naturally pumping out, levels of 800 or 900 on our testosterone, we can absolutely handle that, later in life. There's zero science that says that we can't handle that. Now, that doesn't mean we need to jump up to 1,500 or 2,000, which a lot of people think we have to. We don't necessarily want to do that. Sure. For a lot of different reasons. One is just cost. but yeah, so that's what we do is we educate. We educate people, tell them why you have to do better than this, why you don't need this, what to do with it. I mean, we don't have dreams and aspirations of putting people on 25 different things. That's not what we do either. Sure. We really try to practice good medicine.
Yeah. So talk to me also, there's two types of testosterone. There's like two different types, like what the combination of materials are for the, I'm learning this myself, right?
Okay. So like what's one kind? What is
the compounds are like, okay. One is like you said, bovine, or one is.
When we get into that, if we talk about that and get into that world, there's all kinds of different kinds. You've got really the two forms. You have exogenous and you have endogenous, right? So you've got endogenous, what your body makes, but then you've got exogenous, which is what you have to give yourself as a replacement therapy.
Right.
Now, when we give ourselves exogenous, it's really, we're just talking about the form is really all we're talking about. Okay. And when we talk about form, we also talk about administration.
Right.
So, from an administration standpoint, you have the pellet therapy, which you touched on at the very beginning. You've got injections, which is what I do. And I don't know what you do. Yeah. There's topicals, there's creams. Now they have troches, which look like a little gumdrop, and you dissolve it in your mouth. They don't really work very well. But so there's different types of. It's just a form of administration, is all it is.
Yeah.
So you've got people out there that love pellet therapy. Well, the reason a lot of doctors love pellet therapy is because they can charge a high price for it. So they try to convince you, pellet therapy is better than injections. Well, I don't think that it is, but all it really is a different administration is all it is. It's not like it's a different testosterone that's going in your body, okay? I mean, a little bit maybe. But at the end of the day, the whole point is to get the hormone inside the body. And how you do it is kind of up to you, but the point is to get it inside. So what we use, the kind of the base form is called a cypionate, right? And you've got cypionate. You can do different combinations. We can do a cypionate propionate blend. You can do a predominant propionate blend. Some people like pure propionate. I don't.
What do those mean?
It's just literally a different chemical structure.
Okay.
Is really all it is.
Is it synthetic or is it from animals?
It's synthetic. So it's going to be a synthetic form.
Okay.
But then you've got the compounded versus commercial. Maybe that's what you're talking about in the two forms, right? So you've got compounded, which is where a compounding pharmacy will actually take the raw material and actually create it right there. A lot of times they'll create it specifically to the formulation you want. Okay, I want, 150% cypionate or I'm sorry, 150. So 75% cypionate to 25% propionate, something like that, like a blend. Okay. There's different kinds you can do. There's some of the street names of things like, D-ball and stuff like that too, which we don't deal with any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's predominantly just the cypionate propionate blends. We see that, scientifically and physiologically, it works a lot better in patients. They respond to it a lot better. There's other things you can do. Like there's one out there called Tren, and a lot of people know what Tren is, or Trenobolin as they call it. We don't do it.
Yeah.
It was, to your point about bovine, it was specifically designed for Brahma bulls to get them to mate. We are not Brahma bulls, and we don't want to act like that.
Yeah.
A lot of bodybuilders like it. A lot of them abused it, still do, because they look like a Brahma bull. I mean, you can definitely tell that somebody walking around on Tren. The problem is, you want to talk about just absolute organ damage. I mean, your kidneys will almost not recover from it, Wow. So we don't do anything like that. There's crazy stuff out there. We don't touch that arena with a 10-foot pole, but I personally, and I've done both commercial and compound. I really do like the compounds.
Okay.
Compounds are typically on average about 80% more effective than your commercial brands. The commercials, people like them. Sometimes if their testosterone levels fall within a certain category, then insurance will cover a commercial brand, whereas the insurance will not cover a compound of any kind, not just testosterone. So some people use it for that. They're typically only about 20% as effective as the compounds, which is why I prefer the compounds. The commercial brands will have a longer shelf life, so they'll last a little bit longer. Compounds last, depending upon the pharmacy that makes it, 90 days, 120 days, maybe 180, maybe. In most cases not. But it's still a far superior product.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you were saying pellets don't work as well, in your opinion, because why?
So they can work as well. I just don't prefer them. I don't like them. I've done them, and I don't have anything against anybody who does do them.
Yeah.
We have a physical location in Prosper, and if people want pellets, we'll do pellets. That's perfectly fine. I don't mind doing them. I just personally prefer the injections. The issue that I have with pellets, for me, it's a little bit invasive. Now, some people just don't like to give themselves a shot, right? And I don't mind giving myself a shot, but some people don't, and so they prefer the pellets. Well, it's still, in my opinion, a little bit invasive because what you have to do is you go in there. It's not like it's a surgical procedure, but you go in there and you lay down and they have to numb the area. They make a little incision and then they place the pellets in. It's typically just a few for the females. It can be up to 12, in some cases more for the men. But the incision's really small. They don't even have to use sutures. They just kind of use either a medical tape or sometimes even a glue and just put it back. It can be pretty uncomfortable for about a week. You've got a, pretty big bruise on your hip, or wherever they want to put it, for about a week. But the issue that I have with them is once they're in, they're in. You can't take them out. And now there's some plastic surgeons out there that swear that you can take them out. You really can't. You really, as a general rule, you can't. So the issue is if you're going to have any kind of negative or adverse reactions to it, you're kind of stuck at that point, right? So,
until it dissolves away?
Until it dissolves, right? Okay. So in females, for instance, the pellets will last about 3 months, maybe 4 months. If they're really active and work out a lot, it's going to be closer to that 3-month time period because it will dissolve faster with more physical activity. In men, it'll last about 6 months, okay? Because they just literally give us a lot more than they give the women. And so, we have to do it about every 6 months. Now, from a cost perspective, pellets, in my opinion, are considerably more expensive than the injection therapy can be. Again, depends on what the doctor's charging you, but I still think it's more expensive. But again, us guys are not really going to have too many adverse side effects to it. But there have been a couple of cases, not many, but there are a couple of cases of where a female would get the pellets, but then sometime later, maybe a month later or 2 months later, she's diagnosed with a cancer of some kind, not because of the pellet, because the cancer was there before she got the pellet, but it wasn't diagnosed till after the pellet therapy occurred. Well, you can't take the pellet out now. So so now you've got this hormone that's in the body just feeding this cancer, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can give yourself a blocker, I guess. But you can't do anything about it. You can't go and take that pellet out now. So again, if that's not a concern and you've completely ruled out any kind of cancer, which a good medical professional will always do before a pellet therapy, right? We do that. We rule out anything that looks like a cancer. And once the patient understands that, then it's not a bad therapy. I just don't prefer it. Yeah.
And the topical cream, tell me what's the drawback to that?
Topical creams, typically, again, not very effective in terms of, again, some people like them. I don't. Absorption is different from everybody. You're right. So do you spend more time in the sun? Do you not spend more time in the sun? If you spend enough time in the sun, your absorption typically tends to be a little bit better. It's good to have a little vitamin D along if you're going to have that topical. The biggest issue we see with the topicals is transference. So first of all, the compliance on it is crazy. To be fully compliant with a topical, and nobody's going to do this, in a perfect world, you would take a shower, okay, completely dry off, don't put any clothing on whatsoever for about 30 minutes, completely dry off, administer the topical. You typically have to administer in a very sensitive area. Then you have to thoroughly, and I do mean thoroughly, wash your hands. And then you can't have anything touch that area for, again, another 30, 45 minutes. Once that's done, then you can go ahead and get dressed, put your clothes on, go about your day. To be effective, you have to do that twice a day. Okay? So who in the world's going to do that? Who in the world's going to take a shower, walk around naked for 30 minutes, apply it, walk around naked for another 30 minutes, then finally get dressed, and you're going to do that twice a day? Nobody's going to do that twice a day. But then the other problem too is very rarely can you get it completely off your hands once you've administered it. So you're getting it into your clothes, okay? If you're going and petting the dog, you're transferring it to the dog, okay? And now your dog's being aggressive because he's all full of testosterone, right? And then you've got, are you hugging your wife and kids? Now you're transferring it to them. So that's the biggest issue we see with the topicals.
And if it's a sensitive area, you're definitely transferring it over to them.
Well, 100%. That's exactly right. Yeah, exactly. So again, some people like it, some people swear by it. I mean, again, I've tried it. There's really not a form of testosterone I haven't tried, which is why I can speak to why I don't like them, right? And why most people don't. But again, topicals work for some people. Some people can be compliant, and that's fine. I mean, it's something we do have them. We don't have a lot of people interested in them, but we do have them.
Yeah.
Another form is a troche, and a troche, if you're familiar with those, if you think about just like a little, imagine like kind of like a hard gumdrop type of thing. Typically they're flavored, sometimes they're not. And then you would just put it under your tongue and let it dissolve. The benefit to that, there's two benefits. One, it's not a shot, right? And then two, it goes directly into the bloodstream. All right. Kind of almost like an injection or almost like a pellet. It goes right into the bloodstream. It's not having to do a bypass the liver or anything like that. So, which is good because you don't want it going to the liver. But in doing that, the issue with that is you do lose some of the efficacy. Okay. I personally just think that the science or formulation of a troche has not caught up with what the concept is supposed to be. Meaning it's supposed to be super, super effective and it's going to address your hormone levels. I've not yet seen a troche that will actually get your hormone level up to where it needs to be. And I also, again, different formulations, but in order to be completely effective, like you want it to be, you would have to do it 3 or 4 times a day in most cases. And again, that's just kind of annoying. And again, now we talk about compliance. Anytime that you do any kind of troche or anything under the tongue, you can't have anything in your mouth for 30 minutes, anything. I mean, not even really water. Then you do the troche. It takes about 10 or 15 minutes to dissolve. Then again, nothing in your mouth for another 30 minutes. And if you're having to do that 3 or 4 times a day. So, is it a convenience thing or what is it supposed to be? Because to me, I just rather give myself an injection twice a week and be done with it. And I'd have to be compliant with a topical or a troche 3 or 4 times a day. No, thank you, man.
Oh, so you're doing 2 shots a week.
I divide mine up and do it twice a week just because of the way that testosterone peaks and valleys in the body. It's just,
are you doing thigh or are you doing back?
So I rotate. I'll do, like top of the leg one day, then I'll do side of the hip or butt area the next day. Then I'll do the delt one day. Then I go to the other side of the body and go delt and then hip and then leg, just to kind of vary it up a little bit.
Yeah.
If you keep injecting in the same area, you'll develop scar tissue.
Yeah.
And I've got scar tissue in certain places. And so I know certain places not to go. And you have scar tissue whenever, it's a needle, but when it hits and it doesn't go in, you got scar tissue, So just to kind of mitigate that a little bit, I just rotate.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So what we've got so far is TRT is good, as long as it's managed correctly. Several ways to go about it. Check with Dynamis after this, and and Boomer can tell you all kinds of ways that you guys can check in on that. Weight loss.
Yeah.
There's been the shot that has changed the world.
Yeah.
You've had heavy people that have fought it for their entire life, that have just completely have a whole new life, and they've gotten off like, blood pressure medicine, and all these things are starting to go away with this shot, right? Such a bad stigma at the beginning. And then even people were being guilted for taking it, and they're talking about like, oh, you do the shot or blah, 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 or whatever, right? Like, talk to me about this, pros, cons.
Yeah, man, I when it came out, I wasn't a believer because, there just wasn't a lot of science behind it at the very beginning, or I should say there wasn't enough anecdotal evidence, meaning we had not seen enough of the general public responding to it in the way that the drug companies were telling us that they were responding to. Now that their own study groups did, but the general public had not yet had it long enough to see the effects of it. So I was very skeptical of it.
Yeah.
But then I did notice that I hadn't yet tried it, but I did notice that it was working. Okay. The people who were openly admitting to doing it, they were actually losing weight and losing weight at a far more rapid rate than they had initially anticipated. But it was lasting longer too. Like there didn't seem to be this bounce back effect.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, okay, what is this? So I started doing some research in it. We didn't really, at the time, and we had the business, but we really didn't launch the product right away because we want to do our due diligence and make sure that it's a good, safe, effective product. We don't want to offer an unsafe product, clearly. So we didn't jump on the bandwagon at first like a lot of other companies did back when it was launched. But then finally we did, because we had a lot of experts around us. A lot of them were our pharmacists that were telling us, hey, this is actually a good thing to do, you know, and here's why. And so when I really learned a lot about it at first, and I saw a lot of the anecdotal evidence, and we had we launched it a little bit, kind of like a little test group, if you will, in our first clinic with it. And we watched these patients, and we would monitor them. We would come back and look at their progress. And they did so well with it that there was a time I literally said to somebody, I said, I think we're going to see a day when bariatric surgery will be considered malpractice. Yeah. I mean, because this stuff, now again, that doesn't mean there's not a place for it. I mean, if somebody is really, really, really overweight and they have a couple of 100 pounds to lose, then absolutely bariatric surgery. But if you have anywhere from, call it 30 to 100, 150 pounds to lose, yeah, they work, man. Mm-hmm. And they work really well. And if they're administered correctly. So, and the funny thing is, man, it's so they're in a class of medications called GLPs, right? So you have, and we refer to them as GLP-1s. The truth is, I don't even know that there really is such a thing as a GLP-1, because a GLP is a receptor, and there's more than one of them. Mm-hmm. So you've got some that may hit one receptor depending upon, your epidemiology, but most of them are going to hit more than one receptor. So they're really GLP-4s or GLP-12s or whatever it is they're hitting on those receptors. It's not really a GLP-1, but whatever, we'll call it that. And really what it is, there's not a whole lot of, extraneous science behind it. It slows digestion. And in slowing digestion, you're balancing out your insulin, because as we get older, again, let's go back to the last third of our life, we become more and more insulin resistant. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One of it is age. One of it is our hormone production. A lot of it has to do with our thyroid. That's another thing we look at. Mm-hmm. But a lot of it is just this environment that we live in, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, we, for the most part, too many people eat garbage, man. Mm-hmm. We eat preservative-filled garbage, or too many sweets, too much refined sugar, too much processed anything, alcohol. There's a lot of people that can't lay off that. So, I mean, and alcohol is liquid fat, man. It's just liquid fat. Not that it's not good, but it's liquid fat. So it's
poisons.
Not bashing alcohol, man. We're not going to do that. That's not what this podcast is for. But
what about old fashions?
Yeah, love them. Hi, big fan. And but in doing that, we become resistant to that insulin phase as we get a little bit older, right? And so what the GLP-1 does in just kind of creating kind of this satiety a little bit between, am I going to eat too fast? Am I going to eat too slow? If you can balance it out and it slows that digestion process. So now you're not inhaling everything off the plate or eating the entire bag of cookies, maybe it's just one or two, then your insulin can level out and create a little bit more sensitivity versus resistance. And in doing that, okay, that's how we lose the weight at that point, because our body is not holding on to those fat stores. Our body's not holding on to the sugar. We're not converting excess insulin into fat stores, not converting excess insulin into sugar, things like that. So that's all it is. It's a balancing act. It resets, if you will, kind of the way that our metabolism worked back when we were younger, So we think back to those days, people who are 40 or 45 think, man, back when I was 18, I could eat a whole cheese pizza and not gain a pound, Yeah. Well, you can't do that on a GLP-1, but you will feel the same way. You can go and eat. You want to eat good. Not like you don't want to eat good, but kind of no matter what you eat at that point, you're going to slow that digestion. You're going to create that insulin sensitivity. You're going to slow your roll a little bit, even if it's a little bit of a pizza, right? And you're not going to gain that weight anymore. You're not going to just sit there and hang on to. You're not going to hold on to those excess fat stores. In doing that, one of the biggest benefits that we see in the weight loss drugs is the inflammation piece of this. And so, as you address your insulin sensitivities, you're also addressing the inflammation piece of it. And one of the first pieces of science that come out about the GLP-1s after the initial weight loss studies were the fact that it reduced swelling in the brain. So you had a lot of neurotropic effects, right? You had neurologists talking about how great GLP-1s are for the brain. And they are, by the way, but they're not just great for the brain. The reason that they're good for the brain is because it reduces inflammation systemically. And one of the first places inflammation goes in our body is the brain. So yes, is it reducing inflammation in the brain? Absolutely. But it's reducing inflammation everywhere, you know? I just heard this terminology for the first time about a month ago called semaglutide face. Or somebody else called it terzepatide face, right? Maybe we call it GLP-1 face, but I couldn't figure out. This was a lady at the gym actually that told me about this, and I said, "What in the world is semaglutide face?" And she goes, "Oh, my face is not as swollen as it once was anymore, and it's because of the semaglutide that I'm on." And I thought, "Oh, okay, well that makes sense. Now I see why you're calling it that." So basically, what she's saying is a lot of the swelling and inflammation in her face has gone down because she has been on the semaglutide for 8 weeks. You know, and I thought, well, I never heard of it referred to that, but it makes a lot of sense, you know? So the cool thing is it's happening everywhere. You know, women love it because their skin is clearing up. Well, their skin's clearing up because the inflammation's going away, you know? You don't have to do these fake topicals anymore that promise to take all your wrinkles away. You know, if you're battling some weight issues and you want to do one of the GLP-1s, give it a little bit of time. And in the next, 6, 8, 9 weeks, you will see, not in every case, but you'll see for the most part that inflammation and those wrinkles and those topical blemishes will begin to go away, because anything topical like that on your skin is inflammation pushing to the surface. Whenever we were teenagers and we, had pizza faces because we had acne, man. Well, that's because we were pumping out our hormones, and hormones can be inflammatory. Testosterone specifically can be inflammatory. So when that happens, we develop things like zits and acne, and that's just inflammation pushing to the surface of the skin because our body's trying to get rid of it. Well, whenever you administer GLP-1s, it's reversing that inflammatory process. And so we're going to see, that's why, man, I'm telling you, not only are they good for weight loss, okay, I mean, and they are, but we're going to see a lot of other health benefits associated with these things.
What are we saying some of the cons are for some of these GLP-1s?
Oddly enough, and again, anecdotally, we have not heard many people say anything negative about it. And specifically, from like a physical standpoint, we haven't had any negative side effects that we've seen. Any kind of negative feedback that we get, or anybody, any physician practice would get, really has to do with the administration piece of it. So, because it's a sub-Q injection, and you typically do it once a week. There's kind of this new idea around microdosing it. I haven't seen a lot of science as to the benefit of that necessarily. But really maybe some injection site reactions, a little bit of swelling and some itching around the injection site. That is not specific to the GLP-1. That's just specific to the needle that you're sticking yourself with. But honestly, we're not seeing a lot of it. Again, I can talk about my personal experience and what I noticed, which would be about the only kind of negative feedback or negative reaction I would see. I try to do a little bit of everything. If we offer a product, I want to be able to speak intelligently to it. So I'm probably going to try it for a little bit just to kind of see what it does. And so I remember when they first came out, or I should say a little bit afterward, and we launched it, I did get on the semaglutide, and I learned pretty quickly that I was not as insulin resistant as I thought I was, because it worked too well for me. It made me hate food. Okay. And I have never really had much of a problem with control like that. But I guess it was probably I was on it about 8 weeks, and I got off of it because I didn't want to feel that way about food, man. I really didn't. I don't consider myself to be an overeater anyway, but I remember looking, and we were at my in-laws' house actually, and my father-in-law is a fantastic cook, and he had made, it was like brisket and all this stuff, man. And it looked phenomenal, and I didn't want to touch it. And I remember, and I literally took the plate and pushed it away, and I told my wife, I said, I'm getting off this. Not happening. This is working too well. I don't want to feel this way about food. I just don't want to feel this way about it, so I'm getting off of it. So that was my own personal, if you want to say negative, effect of it. The other piece of this, though, and I wouldn't call this negative so much, just as something that we do encourage people to look out for. And that is that whenever you start losing weight on this, you are going to lose muscle too.
That's what I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going to lose the fat. You're going to want to lose the fat for sure. And that's going to happen. But if you're in a very strict calorie reduction scenario, be it intentional through a diet or a GLP-1, you're going to notice that there's going to be muscle loss for sure. Right. So you want to combat that. So what do you want to do? Well, one of the first things you want to do is essential amino acids. Okay. So not necessarily branch chains, because that's not going to do as much for you as you think it would. There's not a lot of science behind what a branch chain really does for you. Besides, you'll make a branch chain if you need it. But the essential amino acids, essential meaning we have to have it. Okay. In other words, we don't make it, so we have to go supplement for it. Well, the essential amino acids are really the building blocks of a protein or of a muscle fiber anyway. So it's kind of funny. We take in protein converts to amino acids build protein, right? Kind of funny. That's the way it works. Bypass that and supplement amino acids every day, about 5 grams of amino acids. And typically it's a little powder form you can put in a drink, okay? Mm-hmm. And take that along with, if you're doing a GLP-1, to combat that muscle loss. Mm. But really, other than that, we don't see a lot of negative side effects with it.
Yeah.
You really don't.
Yeah. That's awesome, because that's the one thing that I've heard about, and that's I'll make sure that I'm passing that info along as well.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to jump into, kind of the newest thing that's out, because we're getting close to the end here, peptides.
Okay.
Peptides are supposedly the miracle drug, the future.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to waste the minutes even getting to this. I'm going to give them to you.
Well, funny enough, so that's another one of those areas where we see a lot of bad information out there about peptides, by the way. And I would encourage everybody, do your research on these things, because there's a lot of fly-by-night companies. And they're operating unethically. They're giving people bad information. They're giving people incorrect information. They're setting expectations for these things that these things were never designed to do. Mm-hmm. So definitely get with your healthcare provider. It's one of the areas we really try at Dynamis to educate our patients around these things. If you're going to do it, I'll preface it by saying, go with a good, reputable company, even if it's not us. Go with a good, reputable company. Get a provider that knows what they're talking about and not just feeding you garbage. Don't go with these online companies, man. I mean, a lot of these online peptide companies, these things are becoming all the rage right now. And there's a lot of these companies that are not behaving ethically or morally, but they're not even based in the U.S. A lot of these are based outside of the U.S. The company is not a U.S.-based company. The product is not coming from the U.S. You don't know what you're putting in your body, man. I mean, you can buy it online because they put it in a cool-looking bottle with a cool-looking label, and they're charging you $19 for it. And so if you're price shopping, I'm telling you, go price shop with something else. Don't price shop with your body, man, okay? Mm-hmm. Do your research, get a good reputable product from a good reputable company. Mm-hmm. You know where it's made. It needs to be made in a compounding pharmacy that is inspected and regulated by the FDA as well as their state licensed agency. Mm-hmm. That's where you need to get the product. If you're gonna reduce costs someplace, don't reduce it here. Yeah. Okay, so take a little bit of extra money, spend that little extra money on a good quality peptide from a good quality company. I'm telling you, don't buy the stuff that you're seeing online right now. So that being said, when we launched peptides in our clinics years ago, again, 7 years ago now, we had said, maybe it was longer than that. We said this was going to be the medicine of the future. And we said it back then. And we said that providers are going to have to get on board with these things. If one day you could build a whole medical practice on nothing but peptides if you wanted to, and that day is here, right? It's one of the things that we do at Dynamis, and we do it very well. We don't do every single peptide in the world because, quite honestly, some of them are just not necessary. All a peptide is, getting back to the concept of a branched chain amino acid, a peptide is simply a formulation typically of about 7, sometimes 5 branched chain amino acid combinations, okay? And it mimics the way that something should naturally occur in your body. Let's go back again to when we were 17, 18 years old. And let's say that we twisted our knee and, our knee is all jacked up, okay? Well, it swells for a couple of days and then it fixes kind of on itself. And a week later, our knee is good and we're back out playing sports and playing, whatever it is that we're doing. Doesn't happen whenever you're 50 years old anymore, right? I mean, you twist your knee, that thing's out sometimes for a month, and it's like, why is this thing not healing? Well,
yeah.
So there's a concept called sentient cells, or sometimes they're called zombie cells. And what that is, it's a cell that that is either dead or dormant. It's been in your body for God knows how long, since you were forever, really. But I mean, it hasn't worked since you were 25 or 28 years old, or maybe 30 in some cases, right? So that's why we don't heal as fast, right? There's cells, there's all kinds of different cells for all kinds of different reasons. But the mitochondria in those cells have been lying dormant, or as I say, dead for a long time. So what a peptide will do, typically it's an injection. It can be an oral, but the injections work better. It'll go in, it'll wake up those mitochondria, and it'll wake up those dead sentient cells, or those zombie cells, and they'll make them work for about a 48 to 72 hour time frame. So that's why these peptides are designed to do different things. You've got peptides that are designed for gut health. You've got peptides for injury, peptides for weight loss, okay? The very first peptide ever regulated or approved by the FDA was insulin. Insulin is the original peptide, okay? But other than that, there's other peptides for different reasons, as I say. And so you take it specific to what it is you're trying to address. So let's go back to our injury for a second, okay? So we hurt our knee or our elbow or our shoulder. I've got shoulder issues. So there's a peptide called BPC, and there's different combinations. It's BPC 157. You can combine it with a TB 500. You can combine it with a KPV. There's other things you can combine it with. And it's referred to as an injury peptide because it'll go in, and again, we're going to wake up those helper T cells and make the mitochondria work again, and it's going to repair that injury. It's going to repair that problem that's occurring in your shoulder or your knee or whatever. Now, if you have to, let's say you have a full tear, there's something really major going on, well, probably we have to have surgery at that point, okay? Mm-hmm. But if it's something like a microscopic tear or a pull or a strain or something like that doesn't require kind of like a surgical intervention, a peptide is the way to go. There's one for sexual health called PT141. It's not an ED medication, although people think it is. It's not. What it does is it works on the central nervous system. So it actually creates desire where desire wasn't once there, right? As we get older, some of our desire goes away. Well, this works on the central nervous system to bring that back for the next 24, 48, 72 hours, right? There's a peptide, BPC, again, for injury, but there's an oral BPC that you can take for gut health. So our gut health as we get older typically begins to go away for various reasons too. We do it to ourselves a lot through like I say, processed foods and things like that. If we have to repair that gut lining, some people have leaky gut syndrome. Oral BPC will do that. It will go in, and for the next 48 to 72 hours, it will repair that gut lining. So we have to take, some people they take the BPC every single day, but you would want to take it about every 3 days. So those are just a couple of examples of what these are doing. Now we're seeing peptides for all kinds of different things, and there's more and more and more coming out. There's things for, I talked about the whole dead zombie cell thing. Well, there's a protocol where we start with something called a FOXO4, and a FOXO4 goes and clears out a lot of the dead cells. Then there's one called an SS31, which goes and helps replace a lot of those other cells that you just cleared yourself from. So we're beginning to tell our body to function like it's 18 years old again. Then we have one called a MOTS-C. A MOTS-C comes in and addresses those new cells that you're now creating and basically just pours gasoline on them and makes them work again like they did when you were 18 years old. So there's all different kinds of peptides for all different kinds of things. It is, well, I say the future of medicine. I think the future is probably here now. And I think that, in a lot of ways, these providers who call themselves naturopathic doctors or wellness doctors or HRT doctors are going to have to get on the train, because this is what the patients are researching them. We have a very educated patient base now, and they're going to be demanding it. They're going to be asking for it. So it's something I highly recommend. I'm a big fan of peptides, big fan. I'm doing several of them right now.
Okay. So what you're saying is peptides are about to replace HRT.
I don't think they're going to replace HRT.
Okay.
I don't. I think we're always going to have, a need for your testosterone. We're going to have a need for your progesterone. We're going to have a need for the estrogens. It's a completely different mechanism, right? I think that we're still going to have that HRT therapy along with thyroid therapy as well. I mean, if you're not addressing your thyroid, then you can throw your HRT out the window. You're going to have to address both. It works on a different scale because it's a little bit longer lasting, right? Again, the peptides are only, depending upon what you're addressing, it's a 2 or 3 day cycle on those things, right? And you have to keep it going. So I don't ever see those specifically doing anything to address the hormone levels that we have, or issues, I should say, as we get older. For instance, we don't put, in our practice, and I think any doctor would do this, we don't put really anybody under the age of 30 on any kind of HRT therapy unless they specifically have like an endocrinology issue, in which case we would get some kind of a clearance from another doctor to go ahead and start that therapy. Peptide therapy, I mean, you can do it fairly young. There's 18 and 19-year-olds doing peptide therapy right now. Now, their bodies are still functioning as good as they're ever going to function, but sometimes they do need a little bit of help. And you can, with an injury or something like that, if they're coming off of a knee surgery, or they're coming off of some type of an injury, an 18-year-old can take a peptide for 30 days to kind of help facilitate that injury a little bit, whereas they really wouldn't want to touch the hormone therapy at that age. There'd be no reason to do that. It's really cool. I think that the cool thing we're going to see, again, this has been going on over in Europe for a long time. Europe typically tends to be about 20, 25 years ahead of us in medical science. What we're seeing now today, they've been doing over there for 25 years. And so we're getting a lot of our research from them. And what a lot of the data shows is this is the tip of the iceberg. We are going to see more and more peptides rolling down the pike over the next 10, 15, 20 years, to address virtually everything that we do. I say, we may not have to do testosterone. I don't know, man. I don't see it right now, but you may be right. And you never know what 10 years may hold, man. Maybe we don't have to do testosterone therapy anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's going so fast. I've said since AI has come out, the knowledge base and how people are answering questions and sourcing information, it's just been a hockey stick of growth through everything, right? And so I'm really excited to see kind of where this goes in the next 3 to 5 years. And honestly, like from a guy who was a jock, linebacker, who wanted to be on the program to a biologist, man, you've given us some really good information here, and honestly, quite impressed with how you've explained that, and want to give you an opportunity to tell everybody where they can find you at. Yeah,
man. So it's we have a website, www.dynamisonline.com. It's DYNAMIS, dynamisonline.com. That's the best place to find us. You can research now. I'm having you guys do some things to our website, so just bear with us a little bit while you guys are formulating it for us and rebuilding it. It may look a little quirky, but that you can definitely find our products there. Learn how we work, man. We have it's all inclusive pricing. We're not going to ask anything out of pocket from you up front. Okay, we want you to come on. I've really done as much diligence as I can do to break down all the barriers as to why somebody would not want to use us. Okay. So we're not going to ask for any money out of you up front. We're going to get you signed up. We do collect a deposit, but that's only to hold your spot. Right. We want to make sure that you get your labs. We want to make sure that you have your provider visit. We want to make sure that you get started on therapy, and that deposit will be returned to you. So whatever program and counseling session you decide to go with one of our coaches, that deposit that you pay up front will be returned to you. So you're really out nothing to do this. Okay. There's nothing up front. But it's really simple, man. You go online, you can get signed up right there. You can take a look at what we have to offer. We have most of our products on there. It talks about our coaching and how we work. We are truly a coaching concept. We're not a transactional concept. So when you come to us, you're going to get help and you're going to get education. You're not just a number to us. I mean, it's not just, hey, we're going to prescribe this, pay us, and we're done. No, it's not even that at all, in fact. I mean, we are truly a coaching concept, and we're a counseling concept. And so we want to educate and help people. And in doing that, you get some labs, some basic labs, have an appointment with one of our licensed providers. You'll be right there kind of in the virtual room with one of our health coaches who will take over the call at the end of that, explain everything to you, get you set up on one of our counseling packages, one of our coaching packages, be it HRT or weight loss or injury or sexual health or thyroid or whatever it is, man. We've got a package designed for you, and we're going to get you going on the therapy. So there's really no harm, no foul. You'll never go with anything that you don't agree with. So we're not price locking you into anything. We don't work like the other guys do, man. This is not a transaction. This is a relationship. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Honestly, like I've learned a lot during this whole session, and it looks like I'm going to have you on again so we can kind of hit some of these topics one by one. Yeah. Because we honestly have 1,000 more questions I want to ask you about each one of these, but we're at 1 hour and 52 minutes already. Yeah. And,
it's been really cool, honestly, to have you on, and I appreciate it. So you guys check him out, dynamisonline.com, and, look forward to what you guys have to say. So until next time.
Man, I appreciate you having me on here. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, man.
So, yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, that's the blueprint.